you guys how to clean a Franchi 48 AL. This has been made since 1946, I believe, and is still in production today. This is an older version. It's got the engraving and with all the pheasants and ducks on it. I cleaned this probably 20 minutes ago, and I don't think it's been cleaned in, I don't know, like 10 years. So I didn't make a video on how to clean it. I'm going to show you guys how to get it ready to clean. I'm going to disassemble it, and then I'm going to tell you guys what you need to use, and then I'm going to just put it back together and tell you guys other things you need to know. So we want to start off by making sure that there's no ammo in the gun. Make sure it's empty. You can check in the bottom. There's no ammo. I can stick my finger in the magazine. Nothing in there. And then there's no ammo inside the action. So what you want to start off is make sure this is pulled back so that there's no tension on this spring right here, because this is what do you call it? When you shoot the gun, the way it reloads itself is it uses the energy from like the actual impact of the gun. And I'll close the action here, and I'll pretend to be the gun. And when you shoot it, it likes to pull this down, that barrel, which reloads the shell. So it's like an inertia system. It's basically just like the A5, except for it's made by Franchi. So I want to start off by pulling the action back, keeping it open. Take the spring and hold your hand down on the barrel and the stock and hold it against the floor. And then unscrew the cap. When you unscrew the cap, put it aside, and there's some tension under this. There's a spring inside, and it's going to want to rise up on you. So I just pulled both of them off. Normally you'd want to pull the stock off and the barrel off separately, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. So put those aside, and you can have those ready to clean. Okay, after you pull the barrel and the stock off, you want to pull off your friction ring and friction spring, which the friction ring is the brass part of this, and the friction spring is the blued steel. And if you don't have these on, your gun is going to kick a lot more. It's going to be more violent. It's going to wear down your gun quicker, and it's going to possibly break it, according to Franchi. Next, you want to pull off your governor ring, and there's a beveled side. So there's two different things you can do with this ring. If you are shooting heavier loads, you want the beveled side facing upward, out towards the front, towards the end of the barrel. And Franchi recommends that setting for almost all of it. It reduces recoil and everything. But if you're having problems, let's say cycling your light loads, they recommend having the beveled side face down towards the spring. I'm going to keep this facing up because this tends to kick a little bit because there's no recoil pad on it. This is what we have for the pad, and it's just plastic, so it doesn't reduce very much recoil. So I'm having it on the heavy side for the beveled side facing up. Next, you want to pull the spring right off and clean that, and clean all of these parts that I've pulled off so far. And you can separate the brass from the steel. I've already cleaned them, so I don't need to separate them. Next, you want to pull your action forward, push the button on the back, let it go forward, and you want to take your cap off, your stock off. So I already took this off, so now I just have to take the screw and take a screwdriver. It has to be pretty long. It's a flathead screwdriver. It has to be, I'm going to guess, at least 7 or 8 inches. And you want to reach down inside there, and you want to unscrew that. Once you've unscrewed the stock, I'd leave the screw and the cap and everything inside there because it's a pain in the butt to put back in. So I just put that aside. That doesn't need much cleaning at all. Next, you want to take there's this long tube, and all it is threaded on there. So you want to unthread this about halfway, probably half an inch. It's going to be about to come off. There's a spring inside here, and it's under tension. It's a pretty long spring, so it's going to want to shoot up on you. So I'm getting about there, and So you have the spring, you can clean that, and you can clean this tube that's held in. And then there's one more part when you have it spring, it holds the spring in place, make sure it doesn't run into the action. You can clean that too. Next you want to take a punch and a screwdriver just to hold it up or any sort of elevation. And you want to punch out these two holes inside those two pins to release your trigger mechanism. Once you've pulled the pins out, you can set those aside and clean them up. Just take the carbon off. You don't want to oil it. And then you can oil a tiny bit in there. Don't want to use much because it runs. So just give that, wipe it down a little bit. Then you want to hold this. Okay, so you're going to want to push this handle backwards while pulling this little tail, pulling this downward. Let this handle ride backwards, and then that releases your handle. Then push it back in, your tail back in, and push it outward. That releases your bolt and your tail. I don't know what you'd call it, but that's what I call it. And then you can put that aside and clean that. You can punch out these pins. There's only like 1 or 2 pins that I'd actually punch out. This one right here that holds this tail in place right there, that one just fell out for me. So I didn't have to even worry about that. And then there's one other pin that you have to watch out for. It's like a cylinder, it's like a cone. It gets bigger on one end. So you want to be careful punching that out so you don't punch it out the wrong way. Otherwise you'll have some issues. If you want to, that's only to take apart. Just take the bolt apart. I never took it apart because it wasn't that dirty. So if you had to replace the firing pin or something in there, you'd have to punch it out. And it'd be the hole right, the punch right there, right by my finger. And you'd punch it towards me by the looks of it. But with this model, I feel like they're the same size throughout the whole thing. So you'd want to clean the bolt and set that aside for later too. Then all you have to do is pull your handle out and you can clean that. One thing you want to make sure when you're cleaning the gun is don't oil the magazine tube, because Franchi says to keep it dry and clean, so don't oil it. I'm not going to take the magazine tube out. For some reason this shotgun doesn't want to come out, so all you'd have to do is just pull this up and pull the spring out, and then there's this little cap at the bottom, or maybe there's a plug in your shotgun, but there isn't in this one. So you'd have to just pop it up with, I don't know, like a screwdriver or something, reach in this hole right here and just pry it up. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to mess with it. So now for reassembly. I mean, if you were to clean it, I'd just clean the inside, the action, the bolt, this tube, this spring a lot, and then the actual barrel. The rest of it is pretty much clean. The trigger assembly, I wouldn't give it much thought. It doesn't need much. I just wiped it down a little bit with the rag, and then the handle just a little dirty. Just wiped off with the rag, and then this, which holds the spring in place right inside here. That goes right there. That's the only other thing I'd clean. Okay, for reassembly, you want to take your handle and put it right back into place. That's the first thing you want to do. Slide it back on this rail. Next, you want to take your bolt and this little tail, I call it, and put that in right after. Slide it along the railing and slide that into place. Then you want to pull your bolt, pull it upward, slide it along its rail that's on the bolt, and it should go probably, I don't know, a 1/4 inch from the end. For some reason, mine does. So then you want to pull your tail down, and it should allow your handle to go all the way up. If it doesn't, you want to still pull your tail down, pull it up, like towards me, and then pull your bolt forward, and then still pull your bolt forward, your handle forward, and then push down on your tail. It should allow it to slide inward. Then you want to put in your trigger assembly and push up your tail, get it out of the way, and punch your put the pins back in and punch it back into your action, your trigger assembly back into your action. Use a rubber mallet to pound them flush. It's good. Flush on both sides. Safety on. You can cock it backwards, it won't make any difference. There's no spring, it's not loaded or anything, and push the button, it won't do anything. You can slide it up, oh well. And then next you want to do is you want to reload this spring. This is probably the hardest part of this whole process. First you want to take this end, and there's two little things. Two different sizes of like tube, I guess you'd call it. One this way wouldn't work because it just wouldn't fit. So you want to slide the thinner side into the spring and set it inward down this tube. You can let that piece go down first, and then you want to push this spring down. What I found that works the best is take your spring and compress it just a little bit, not a whole lot, something that you can control. Then you want to take your other end of the tube that threads onto it, and you want to stick that over the top, and you want to fish it down. Now I only have like 2 inches left to work with. Stick my fingers and keep pushing down until it gets in the way. It may take a little while, you may mess up a little bit, and then once you get it all the way on, you should be able to thread it into place. There we go. Got it threaded in, now you can just tighten it all the way down. Okay, now that's tight. Now we want to put our stock back on. Make sure you didn't lose your spring and everything, your screw and everything in there. So stick the stock right back on where it was, all the way down, and screw it back into place with your long screwdriver, wherever it went. Screw back into place and tighten it down. Okay, once you tighten your stock back on, you want to pull your bolt and handle back, and watch out for the button on the back side, or else you might hurt your fingers. And then you want to put your, wherever it is, your spring back on, slide it back down. Then you want to put your governor ring on, and I'm going to put the beveled side facing up so less recoil for heavier loads. So I'm going to stick that down, and then I'm going to stick the friction ring and the friction spring on right over top of the governor ring. And then I'm going to take the barrel, and I'm going to stick this on, go on top, and then go on the bottom. It'll still be under tension and everything. Then you want to take your stock, your forearm anyway, and slide that down so it's flush with the silver end of your barrel. Once that's flush, you should be able, it should be flush. Once it's flush, you should be able to put tension back down on it, apply pressure downward, and you should line your stock back up. Take your cap, screw that back on, and then tighten it just a little bit. For some reason mine likes to have this little gap, so I have to find it in the little spot and make it so tighten it down make it all the way tightened down so the stock doesn't hit the action, like rub, because there's a little knob on it, so that way it fits inward on the knob in the action. So then tighten it down with your hand. Don't use any other applied power, otherwise you might break it, so leave it that way. And then last but not least, you want to put your buttstock back on. Then once that's done, you should be complete, and you should be having a working Franchi. If you have any future suggestions for like gun cleans, let me know. Put it down below in the comment section, or send me an email.